a wonderful and exciting day to be alive. And we welcome you this morning to be part of the Fitz Group call and the Fitz Group family. We always enjoy it. It's a great way to watch those pictures in the beginning because it's such a sweet reminder of the amazing memories and relationships and the team that are here. And most of you are part of that. You're family for us. Some of you might be brand new and you're like, I don't feel the family part just yet. But I welcome you in. I'm proud to be associated with the people on this team, with the winners that have done more than, they're in the top like 1% of success rates in the insurance industry. I call them the giants in the industry. This team is filled with many of those types of people, and I welcome you in to learn from them, to get to know them, to build relationships with them, and for you yourself to also become one of that 1%, to prove to yourself that you can do it. I think that one of the most important reasons to get connected to the team and get connected to the family and being with us 2 weeks from now is so important. 2 weeks from today, you'll hear more about that in just a minute. But 2 weeks from today, we're doing the Fall Fest, which means we get together live and in person. And we do a lot virtually nowadays, which I think is a massive blessing. It's a massive cost savings. It's a massive time savings. But it is limited, because there's just something you cannot get when you're not together live in person. There's just that sort of intangible. So we create these opportunities. We try not to overdo them, but create opportunities for us all to get together. So it's very important that you set apart time and you plan to be here, because it really is the team. It's the people that will help you keep going. They just will. They will keep you in the fight. Every day, it's a challenge. Every day of life is a challenge. I mean, I feel that the older I get, somehow that almost gets more intense. You know, I keep thinking, I remember seeing like some bell curve about how like that life, you know, like when you're mid 40s, which is kind of where we are, is like the most peak, the most intense. And then it goes starts going downhill as far as like life gets better, like on the other end. And, you know, my dad, he's 81. He probably would echo like he thinks life's pretty grand right now with his puppy and his grandkids and his playing and his golfing and, you know, all those wonderful things that he gets to do. So, you know, I feel that though. I sense that life can feel very intense at this stage in this stage of our lives. And I don't know how you feel that way, but I think this business for some of us, it reminds us of that because, you know, it's hard to get on the phone every day. It's hard to stay in the good fight every day. That's why I really honor the top producers and top winners and leaders on this call who stay in the fight every single day. And some of you are here and you're trying to figure out how to get in that fight every single day. And you're fighting that, I don't want to get on the phone. I don't want to be on that call. I don't want to be a part of this. I mean, I do because I want the result, but I don't want to do the work. And I think that I just want to remind you today, as you face those feelings, a lot of times it's rooted in fear, because maybe you feel like you haven't been successful in things in the past, and that haunts you. Sometimes I think it can be rooted in this sort of overall depressive state of life, like why even try, why even work? Nothing's going to get better anyway. Sometimes we're too afraid, we're stuck, we're afraid of success, we're afraid of launching out and depending upon ourselves. And there are a lot of internal complex emotions and feelings that usually are somehow connected to our history or experiences or past that prevent us sometimes from moving forward effectively. And I just want to remind you today, though, to embrace those feelings and to even somehow, oddly, weirdly, choose a gratefulness for that fear, or choose a gratefulness for that client who didn't want to see you today. Choose to be grateful for the difficult things and things that you feel that you are trying to push through. Because it's in those moments that, whether you know it or not, you're choosing to grow or to stay the same. And when you really step back in the big picture of life, I mean, the pursuit of growing as an individual, your ability to control your inner peace and joy and your ability to trust yourself. I saw a quote that said this. It said, you cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. And I think sometimes that inner job of learning to grow and push through difficult feelings, difficult times, difficult things really boils down to kind of two things. I see it in two categories, and that quote sums it up. Because we can't control, things come into our lives all the time that happen that we just can't control. They upset the apple cart right away, and we didn't ever see them coming. But there's an element of faith that I believe in personally, and you don't have to have a faith. But you really have one, whether you believe it or not. Something in you categorizes when things happen to you that you can't control. You're choosing a certain amount of faith in that. Like, why did those things happen? And so for me, I just choose to believe that everything has purpose, and it's rooted in a good God. Like that's my choice. You've chosen something. When something happened to you unexpectedly, you have a certain faith system that helps you categorize that. Why it happens. But the other side of that is our response to those things. And that actually does boil down into self-confidence. It boils down into trusting yourself. Trusting that I will figure out how to respond to it. Figure that I might get knocked down, but I'm going to get back up again. Trusting that that's the kind of person that I am. I might get hurt, but I'm going to love again. I might fail, but I'm going to find my way to success. I might lose, but I'm not going to stop trying. But that takes time. You have to build that. And I mean, I'll boil it down really basically for you. I mean, think about it. Like, I've been sort of seeing this with our oldest son. A lot of you know that he went through like a really difficult wrist break, like a bad one, like broke both bones. But it's been interesting just to watch him. You know, like he used to be afraid. Like the month before this happened, it took him in for the first time to get poked to get his blood drawn. Okay, and I don't know about you, but like I know for me, I was the same way. When I was a kid, I was afraid of needles. I hated shots. They terrified me. But you know, over time, when you do it enough, especially if you're a mom and you've had 3 or 4 babies, you've been poked so many times that I could care less now if you come at me with the needle. It doesn't faze me one bit. So it's a really basic point. And I've watched him grow through that just in the last 8 weeks, because just on Friday, he had these 2 metal pins running through his bone, and you show up at the doctor's office, no medication. They just twist them and yank them out. And he wasn't nervous about it. He wasn't upset. You know, it was growth. Now, was he grateful in the moment for getting poked a whole bunch at the hospital? No. But my point being is, and that's just a really simple example, but you have examples like that in your life too. Things that when you were young or when you were younger were harder, and now you see them and you think, it's no big deal, because you pushed through and you grew through it. And you can actually, in a weird way, be grateful for the pain. So I'm just reminding you of that today. Wherever you are today, whatever mountain you're trying to push through, those calls you want to make, choose gratefulness for that feeling of, I don't want to do it. If you choose to be grateful, like, hey, this means I'm growing as a person. And believe it or not, like, I want you more than anything to be successful here in this industry. But I've got a Jonathan Yakey quote from when we were all down in Mexico 2 Mays ago for Michelle Alleman's birthday. And we were down there eating breakfast with Jonathan and Megan. And Jonathan said that day at breakfast, he said, I've kind of realized that if nothing else, I can go out and make, 100,000 or more just selling something. Like, I have learned how to sell. And I now have a skill that I'll have for the rest of my life. So when you look at these opportunities to grow in what you're doing, you're not just learning to excel in this industry and make money here in this amazing opportunity. You're literally building your self-confidence, your self-ability to be better anywhere that you go and anything else that you do in life. And that is worth overcoming today. When you see the big picture and you go, I'm going to choose growth today. So I challenge you to choose growth today, and I promise you, you'll become much more masterful at it if you will lean into the team, lean into the relationships, the people who are thinking the same as you. who know that if I choose to overcome today, that I'm choosing growth. And we're going to talk about this in many varied ways when we're together in 2 weeks. So that is my plug to get you to be here. It's also just my way to hopefully encourage you today to keep going, stay in the good fight, and be a part here of the Fitz group. Get connected and be a part. So we are so happy. If you're already here, I'm preaching to the choir because you've chosen to be connected. And you're going to hear from tremendous leaders this morning and hear about a lot of the exciting things that are going on. This call is beginning to take a backseat to the everyday 9 o'clock call, the coaching call that you get to be a part of. So I love all of y'all. Happy to see you and be with you this morning.